Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am DINA HESTYANI. Now I would like to explain about my experimental research case and my correlational research case. First, I would like to explain my experimental research case. My title is The Effect of Audio-Visual Media on Students' Listening Skill of 10th Grade Students at SMAN 1 Melati. The research context, listening skill is a crucial component of EFL learning, but many students struggle to understand spoken English because limited exposure to authentic listening materials. But audiovisual media may help improve student comprehension in listening skill. Because audiovisual media, it combines sound and visual elements and then helps students to understand spoken English more easily, and also it expected to improve listening comprehension, student listening comprehension. Next, the participants were intake class of 10th grade students at SMAN 1 Melati, and then the classes were selected using purposive sampling because the classes were already formed and accessible for the study. The research problem is there a significant effect of audiovisual media on the listening skill of 10th grade students at SMAN 1 Melati. The research objective is to investigate the effect of audiovisual media on the 10th grade students' listening skill at SMAN 1 Melati. The research variables, first, the independent variable is teaching using audiovisual media, and then the dependent variable is students' listening skill. The research design in this study, a quasi-experimental research design is employed, specifically a post-test only control group design. It includes experimental group and control group. After the treatment, those groups were given a listening test to measure their listening skills. Just as we can see in the table, the experimental group, the treatment is not using audio-visual media, and then the control group, there is no treatment. And then after that, there is a listening test for them. Next, the skills of measurement. In the table here, we can see that the instrument of the teaching using audio-visual media for the independent variable is teaching treatment, and the skill is nominal. For the listening skill, the dependent variable, the instrument is listening task score. The scale is interval. The research hypothesis, for the null hypothesis, it said there is no significant difference in student listening scores between students taught using audio-visual media and those who did not. And the alternative hypothesis said that there is a significant difference in student listening score between students taught using audio-visual media and those who did not. The research data here consists of student listening test scores obtained from the experimental group and control group. The listening test was administered after the treatment in both groups. Here in the table, in the slide, the table is showing the experiment group, the student names and their scores. It consists 14 students, and here is the table of the control group, and also consists of 14 students. Next, the statistical analysis that used in this study, because the data were measured on interval scale and it involved a small sample size and were not normally distributed, a non-parametric statistical test was required. Therefore, the man-with-me-you test was directly used to compare the listening scores of the experimental group and the control group. And here, the man-with-me-you test result, as we can see from the two tables, the experiment group obtained a higher mean rank, which is 17.75, than the control group, which is 11.25. The test results show a significant total value of 0.034, which is smaller than 0.5. Therefore, the null hypothesis, stating that there is no significant difference between the two groups, is rejected. This indicates that a statistically significant difference exists in student listening scores between students taught using audio-visual media and those who were not. The conclusion, based on the statistical analysis, the man-with-me-you test revealed a statistically significant difference between the experiment group and the control group. The higher mean rank of the experiment group indicates that teaching using audio-visual media had a positive effect on students' listening skill. Therefore, it can be concluded that teaching using audio-visual media had a significant effect on the listening skill of 10th grade students at SMAN 1 Melati. And here, the step-by-step statistical procedures from the beginning to the end. First, stating the hypothesis, of course, and then collecting the data, selecting the statistical test, which is the man-with-me-you test, and then conducting hypothesis testing, and the last is making a decision and conclusion. Okay, next is the correlational research. My title is the correlation between EFL students' perceptions of grammar and their grammar achievement at UIN Said Ali Rahmatullah Tulungagung. The research context, grammar is an essential component in EFL learning. Students' grammar achievement is influenced by both instructional and affective factors. Students' perception of grammar may affect motivation and engagement. The study focuses on third semester EFL students at UIN Said Ali Rahmatullah Tulungagung. The research problem is there a significant correlation between EFL students' perception of grammar and their grammar achievement? The research objective is to investigate the correlation between EFL students' perception of grammar and their grammar achievement. The research design, this study employed a correlational research design. The purpose of this design is to examine the degree of direction of the relationship between two variables without manipulating any of them. The study seeks to determine whether students' perception of grammar are statistically related to their grammar achievement. The research variables, first is the predictor variable is students' perception of grammar, and then the outcome variable is students' grammar achievement. Scale of measurement, students' perception of grammar are collected from a 5-point Likert scale questionnaire and then measured using an ordinal scale, classified into 5 levels ranging from 5, which is very high, and then 4 high, 3 is moderate, and then 2 low, and 1 is very low. For the students' grammar achievement is measured using an interval scale represented by numerical grammar test score ranging from 0 to 100. Research hypothesis, the null hypothesis said that there is no correlation between EFL students' perception of grammar and their grammar achievement. For the alternative hypothesis, said that there is a significant correlation between EFL students' perception of grammar and their grammar achievement. The research data, the data were obtained from 30 third semester students enrolled in a grammar course at UIN Said Ali Rahmatullah Tulungagung, and then the data consists of students' perception level and their grammar achievement scores, as presented in the next slide table. Here the table for the research data, it consists 30 students from the third semester. Just we can see in the table, and then for the statistical analysis used. For the type of statistical analysis, this study uses Spearman's rank order correlation, Spearman's row, to analyze the relationship between students' perception of grammar and their grammar achievement. For the reason for using the analysis, it's because Spearman correlation is appropriate for this study because one of the variables, which is students' perception of grammar, is measured using an ordinal scale. In addition, this test does not require the assumption of normal distribution and is suitable for analyzing the relationship between ranked or non-parametric data. And here is the result and interpretation. As we can see in the table, the coefficient of correlation is 0.576. This means there is a moderate positive correlation between students' perception of grammar and their achievement in grammar. It also suggests that the p-value is less than 0.001, considering that it is smaller than the level of significance, which is alpha 0.5, and then the null hypothesis is rejected. The conclusion, based on the result of the Spearman correlation analysis, it can be concluded that there is a statistically significant positive correlation between the EFL students' perception of grammar and their achievement in their grammar achievement. The finding indicates that students' perception of grammar are associated with their academic performance in grammar. The step-by-step statistical procedure is the first is setting the hypothesis, and then collecting the data, and then determining the level of significance, selecting the statistical test, and then concluding hypothesis testing, obtaining the statistical results, and then the last is making a decision and a conclusion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.